Welcome to Career Step Forward. I'm Christiane Beinroth with my online consulting Azurate. Welcome. This episode is part 3 of a 4-part series called Qualities, Soft Skills, and Attitudes That Come Handy When You Work Internationally. Now, in today's episode, we want to talk about creative competencies that help us and reactive tendencies that hold us back in finding solutions for our international living. Doesn't matter if it's on a personal or professional level. Now, let's get practical right away, because if you hear these phrases, you might be tempted to turn off. So a few years ago, I was sitting at the National Airport in Washington, D.C. I lived in the U.S. at that point, and there was a lady sitting next to me reading a book called Mastering Leadership. The title intrigued me, and I wrote down the title, got the book, and I like a lot of the content, and I think it fits into this series. Maybe you even know the book. Basically, it's called Mastering Leadership. It's by Anderson and Adams. They have a whole program around it, the Leadership Circle profile. Just a disclaimer, I'm not affiliated with them. I will also not give you a comprehensive summary of their approach. I just found that some of the content is really helpful for what we are talking about in this series. They also have a second book out. I think it's called Scaling Leadership, from about a year or two ago. You can check it out. They also have a PDF at the time of this recording. They have a PDF online that has a summary of the competencies and reactive tendencies that we are talking about here today. Okay, so basically, what does this whole thing have to do with our international life, with maybe how the international living affects our personal relationships, and the whole thought about it? And that's the kind of the overall thought I see in the book is we want to have an approach and attitude of creating and not reacting to the world around us, to the situation around us. So the whole idea of creating, and I like the word, and I use it on purpose, creating, more than creative. I think the word creative, we are so used to it, but creating shows the action in it and how we take the initiative also. So we have talked in previous episodes about how when we are in these international situations, how you might have routines that you have, or the way arrangements for your everyday life with your family or spouse, the way how you have it, it might just not work in this international setting. And that's why you want to find solutions that work for you, that are unique to your situation, and that are more based on your values and your priorities, your goals, rather than what maybe somebody around you expects, or how people altogether live their life, So it's all about this. You want to have a creating approach. So let's just get practical. I will show you some of these competencies that they list, and then also some tendencies. And don't mind my voice, I'm fighting a cold. So if it sounds a little weird, just ignore it. So the overall idea I see in these competencies is that it has a lot to do with emotional, social, and also cultural intelligence. You've probably heard about Daniel Goleman and emotional intelligence, social intelligence. The idea of that I can relate to people, that I have an awareness of other people, also good self-awareness. I think these dimensions you can really see in these competencies that you can. And I think that this is really important when it comes to your personal relationship. You want to have an eye for how is your partner doing? Having that sense of, having that intelligence, that emotional intelligence to relate to their situation. Also, in the professional field, kind of reading the different culture, kind of like sensing what is going on in a new professional setting. So it has those two dimensions in it: the relating to other people, how you relate, a caring component in the personal intelligence. It's collaborating, mentoring, a sense of mentoring, but also in the self-awareness, that we have a balance in a work life, of course, in the activities, how we have work and leisure. Then also how you have an attitude of being a personal learner. We had that in a previous episode. So I think if we can have this this skill of emotional intelligence, as much as we are used to this word, emotional social intelligence, how we can relate to others and how we can also be aware of what's going on in ourselves, this will be very, very helpful when we try to find solutions. Then another point they bring up is authenticity and also integrity, basically, but also what they call courageous authenticity. They say, I quote, "It measures the leader's willingness to take tough stands, brings up the undiscussables, risky issues the group avoids discussing, and openly deal with difficult relationship problems." And I think that is, I love this phrase, courageous authenticity, because when we try to find solutions in our personal relationships in international living, we need that courage to, we need that courage to talk about things that are not pleasant, that we want to name things and bring them up that we rather don't want to talk about, even if we don't have a solution right away. So courageous authenticity, I really like that, and integrity. Also the approach of system thinkers, as much as we want to define our identity by values and goals that are ours, and that's kind of coming from inside out, but also we are part of a system, we are system thinkers. And then also in terms of achieving, it mentions just again, being purposeful and visionary, being decisive, because I think being decisive to just try something out, looking for a solution and just seeing, hey, if we do it like this, does it work? Is that making our life together better? So the decisiveness around it, I like the idea too. So just make decisions, try something out, like act on it. So these would be a few of the competencies. And so basically the idea around emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and I add cultural intelligence. If you haven't heard about cultural intelligence, Google it. It takes emotional and social intelligence beyond the culture barrier. It's a sensitivity and an awareness for cultural, it's on the realm of culture. If you don't find it, get back to me. I'll show you the links. Or maybe I put it even in the episode notes. Okay, and then also really being authentic, having a sense for we are part of a system, being visionary, and just the courage to make decisions. Okay. Let's go to the reactive tendencies, and those are the ones that are holding us back in finding solutions for our international living, in the personal life, or even if you are in a new assignment internationally, you are at an expat location, you are exposed to a different culture, different procedures, different customs. So these are reactive tendencies, and what I like about it when I read through them is sometimes with looking at what can hold us back, it becomes much more obvious. And then let's just see, what we can do about it in easing them up, or seeing those tendencies in us and just giving ourselves the slack too, if necessary. I mean, we're all growing, we're all learning. But it can be really helpful to see what kind of tendencies we have that are actually hindering in a sense of finding solutions. Okay, so one thing they bring up here in the reactive tendency list is complying. The idea of that I comply with, I quote, expectations of others rather than acting on what he or she intends and wants. And I want to point out the idea of pleasing, that we look for approval. Also, that is often based on what degree of self-worth we have. Then also belonging, a sense of belonging. And the interesting thing is, so I quote again, it says, he or she goes along to get along, thereby compressing the full extent of his or her creative power into culturally acceptable boxes. So basically, and what is interesting about this, there's nothing wrong about that we want to please somebody, and that we want to belong somewhere, especially the belonging. I think it is so normal. We are social beings, so we want to belong, and so I don't want to take away from, and I don't think they want to take away from a positive sense of belonging and pleasing, and just we are part of what we said, part of a system, part of networks, part of groups, and we want to that is all great. But if it blocks of who we really, that we can really fully be who we are, if we, because of being afraid of that we belong or we please, or even they talk about being passive, that they are not a creator of his or her life experience. I'm quoting again here, that his or her efforts do not make much difference, and that he or she lacks the power to create the future he or she wants. So basically, even to the extent that I become so passive that I don't believe I can be creating, that I can be a creator. So as great as the senses of belonging and pleasing, that they have their place, but let's watch out if we want to find solutions for our personal lives, how we want to set up our priorities, how we want to, our goals, how we want to live life, what solutions we want to find. Is any attitude of that we want to please somebody, a family member, a co-worker, or that we want to belong to a network, that we are other expats, or like, where is pleasing or sense of belonging, or even passiveness is coming in, that it hinders us finding really balanced and tailored solutions that work for us. Okay, I hope this makes sense, okay? So we want to see what is there that is holding us back in finding these solutions. Okay, then they list another area, and it's protecting. It has to do also with a sense of maybe arrogance that can come up, keeping a distance. And that is, again, I think, especially in a partnership, like when you have a spouse, where do we protect ourselves from not getting vulnerable, not getting hurt? Where do we put a wall up? I just want to point that out too. Then we have a sense of controlling, a tendency of controlling, a sense of personal worth through task accomplishments and personal achievements. That's the quote again, a sense of personal worth and through task accomplishment and personal achievement. That we with that try to control, and we know the aspect of the tendency of being perfect. We try to do things perfectly. The worth and security is equated with being perfect. That's the sentence they quote or they mention here. Worth and security is equated with being perfect, and we know that's a general problem. So let's see where we have these tendencies. There are a few more. I don't want to go into more, but I think the ones that were most important to me that can really influence our decision making or finding solutions is the pleasing, the belonging, being passive, protecting ourselves, not getting vulnerable, trying to be perfect. And I think that's great if we can ease up on those things. And just being aware of where that can hinder us. Yeah, let's see. So we went through a few of these creative competencies, reactive tendencies, by Anderson and Adams, from the Leadership Circle, from the book Mastering Leadership. And let me take a moment here just to sum up. If we can come from a place of creating instead of reacting, I think we're in a really good position. In a good position to find solutions for your personal situations with your personal relationships when you live internationally. I'm a coach, I'm a content creator. Totally feel free to get back to me about anything you were listening to. If you have questions, if you have comments, if you have experiences around it, I always love to hear from people. And if you are looking for support in your international situation with your personal relationships or anything, the professional situation, check out the things I have online, or just contact me and let me see how I can be of help to you in it. Okay, thanks for listening. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.